So Danny had a really good question, and it was,
why is the blade curved?
yeah, well, we got to that because of how is it that the blade doesn't get wrecked when you're cutting through bone. If you were to swing this sword, this is a ninja toe, and it's a straight blade. If you were to swing that sword into an object, the force of that object is going to hit the tip, and that force is going to immediately start transferring. And as it transfers, it's going to spread. It's going to spread along the width of the blade, okay, and along the length of the blade, not this length, but the thickness of it, right? And that's where it's going. It's going pretty straight in. Not this, because this is a slicing implement, and that's a slicing implement too, but often Ninja used it as a slamming implement. They usually just slammed it in, slammed it home. And the reason why is because they weren't as skilled as a samurai. They didn't really know what they were doing. They knew to a degree what they were doing. I'm cutting this guy, and there's probably a lot of ninja out there that are going to get offended by this, but most of them just slammed stuff into targets because they just didn't have the same body dynamics, the same honed skill, the same understanding as a samurai. The other reason is that they couldn't afford a good blade. Not that this is a good blade, this is our beat-up blade. But our knock-around beat-up blade, you can still see a curvature in that blade. That curvature changes how force dissipates when you slice into an object. So here, if you could imagine slamming into that object here, bam, we're coming down on an angle and we're slicing. And as we slice, force meets here, it spreads just as it does over the ninja toe, but it also constantly gets changed, it transfers. It doesn't, it never gets to, if you think about it this way, it never gets a chance to grip or to take hold. As it cuts, let's use a bouquet for that analogy. As it cuts, and we've got a picture of this bouquet being a little bit more curved because it's not. But as it cuts, it makes impact here, and it starts to really slice. Often it's up here at the Kisaki, but as it cuts here, it's slicing. And as it slices, that force comes here, right? Comes here, and it works its way out. It's like an upside down pyramid. Straight out. But it's also being forced into different places, constantly changing. So this part, this tiny little tip here, if you picture a blade, takes some of that force and spreads it over the rest of the blade. But it doesn't get a chance to take much of that force because this is constantly changing. The surface area is constantly changing as it's being drugged through the object. So how much does this take? Tiny, tiny little bit. How about this? A little bit. A little bit, little, all the way out and through. The angle of the arc is really important because as we're dragging, right, here's our slice. As we're dragging, a lot of that force gets sent upward and out. Do you see that? People always think the blade is this thick. That's not how thick the blade is. So, how thick is this blade? Everybody looks at it and they say, oh, it's this thick. That's how much steel you have. And that's not true. When we come in, we're slicing. So when it impacts here and it's in a slice, how much steel is behind that slice? That blade is that thick. That is a big hacking piece of steel. What this comes down to is really awesome. It comes down to an understanding of we want to transfer force, but we don't want to take it. What the heck are we talking about? Well, when you're a white belt, I swing at you with a bow ken, and you're holding a shakubo. Now this is a jo, but you get the idea. If I held the jo up like this, like a karate guy does, and say, ya-ya, right? Here, you're coming down with a bow ken, and I yell, hi-ya, and I hold it up. How much wood do I have before you cut through me? Nope, it's this much, right? But we don't do that. What do? How much wood do I have before you cut through me? Look at that. That's a thick piece of oak right there. Here, you think you can cut through that with a sword? Yeah, Think you can cut through that with a sword? That'd be hard to do. You cut through a log, right? How are you going to do that? And it's the law of least resistance. Is it easier to cut through, if you're coming straight down, is it easier to cut through this or cut through air? Well, you don't have a choice. When it comes straight down, that's going to impact there, and you're going to start cutting through wood. Here, is it easier to cut through this big thick thing, or is it easier to cut through air? You do have a choice. In fact, you are directed towards that choice, aren't you? Now, let's take that. That seems unrelated. It's completely related. Here we go. Is it easier for you to break my claymore? It's like a claymore at this point. This big, thick piece of steel, or is it easier for you to transfer the weight continually through the length of the blade and get sliced in half? Does that make sense? Never are we taking on this point and that's it. Law of least resistance allows us, especially as we drag and pull, to change that area of impact. Change it greatly. This and this are related. They're not opposites. That's the same damn thing. Here. Here. Does that make sense? Are we seeing that? Now, here's what's cool. That's what we repeat over and over and over again. Where do you see it, though? Okay, here we go. Danny, when you come in, come on in here. When you come in, we're going to bow, and then when you throw this at my head here, right? So here this thing comes in, boom. What the heck are we doing? Let's take a look. Is it easier for you to crush yourself on my elbow, or is it easier for you to ride over my head? And we'll find out. Either way, we're good. This, a little editing there. Excuse me. This is representative of one. We've seen this shape before. Anytime we impact, we create that shape. You come in to throw a kick, and I come here to knee that kick. What am I doing? Okay. I've seen kickboxers take impact with their shins, and I've seen their shins break. So a guy throws a kick, and the guy brings his leg up, and he's impacting. He wants to stop the kick from happening. So he's throwing his kick, boom, and this guy comes in, and he comes in tight and strong, and boom, it hits his shin, and I've seen kickboxers get kicked and break their legs. Why, though? Because it's the law of least resistance. Is my shin thicker than your shin? If there's enough force to break something. And if my shin is thicker than your shin. Let's find out. No. When we draw our leg up, we're hoping to meet that person's leg with our knee and break their leg. But also, our shin is on an angle. What does that mean? Our bone just got a lot thicker. Does that make sense? And law of least resistance means that when that person tries to impact my shin as they come with their leg, are they going to? To a degree, but not what they wanted to do. They wanted to slam into it. They can't. They're going to have to rake down it. My shin becomes the blade. Does that make sense? And you'll see that over and over and over again throughout our art. It's about superior technology. It's about a superior understanding of physics.